Hi, everyone, and welcome to a special Q&A recording of Silent Night, part of our gala presentation program at the 46th Toronto International Film Festival. I'm Joanna Vicente, Executive Director and co-head of Tiff. A big welcome to Director Camille Griffin, who joined us, along with Keira Knightley, Matthew Goode, and Griffin Davis, in this dark comedy about the end of the world. While this year continues to be challenging for many, I'm happy that we can be together virtually to talk about Silent Night. So let's get started. Camille, you wrote and directed the film. Can you tell us about how you got inspired to do this project?
I made some notes for myself yesterday in case I didn't know what to say, but they're not in front of me, so I'll give it a good go. I was thinking that basically I have a kind of certain level of middle-class guilt because I feel like I care tremendously about the world, but I'm not, living in a refugee camp and feeding the needy. And I feel conflicted that I have these values, yet I don't know if I'm taking enough action. So I feel like what I do instead is try and invite the conversation into the family and do my best to kind of, educate my children myself. And I think with the film, I wanted to kind of take that conversation elsewhere and make it bigger. And I don't think the film's going to be changing the world, but I think it's important to have the conversation about, do we do enough? Can we do more? Privilege versus kind of, we're privileged people and we have the ability or the position to make decisions that can affect other people. And do we do enough? And I also know that those questions can be hard work for people. So I thought, let's make it funny. Yeah. And I've written a lot of scripts that have been a little depressing that haven't got funded. So I thought, okay, if we make this funny, it'll be hopefully people want to watch it.
Great. I'm sure people will want to watch it. And Keira and Matthew, you both hit absolutely the right notes. How did you prepare for the role, which is very timely during this pandemic?
I don't speak before Keira. That is a fact.
That's how you prepare for the role, isn't it?
Always. What's she going to do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I read the script. I read the script when I was 7 months pregnant with my second child. And it had been quite a rough pregnancy. So I'd been sort of had morning sickness for about 6 months of it. Ooh. And then I had this really brief moment where I felt okay. And then I got sciatica and it was just agony. And so I went over on holiday to France because I thought what I really need to do is lie in a swimming pool and I just need to float because then I won't be in pain the entire time. And I was lying in the swimming pool and I read the script and they sent it through and they were like a kind of very angry hippopotamus in the swimming pool. And I read it and I thought it was the funniest thing. I mean, I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. I mean, I thought it was so fucked up, but really, really funny. I thought, yes, okay. I'd never read anything like it. And I thought, yeah, okay, this is great. So I said, yes, please. Can I meet Camille, the writer director? And they said, yeah, maybe wait until after you've had the baby. So yeah, that's fine. So, go away, had the baby. And about 6 weeks afterwards, I'm now in that kind of post-hormonal, sleepless, and I read the script again. And again, I find it absolutely hilarious. And I meet Camille and Camille is wonderful. And she brings me coloring books with swear words and coloring pencils. And we have like a 2-hour chat where, again, we just laugh and laugh and laugh. And we talk about the themes in it, the sort of end of the world, the what the hell would you do, the maternal kind of aspect of it. And I thought, yes, this is a definite. So I said yes. And then cut to when we're actually about to make the film. And my kid is now 5 months old. And I read the script again and I go, this isn't funny. this is, what the hell is this? Yeah. This is awful. This is terrifying. This is shocking. This is, what is this? So I think, what I loved about it is that it really spoke to that maternal hormonal moment that I was having, that catastrophe, that kind of sudden moment where you're becoming a mother or you are already a mother and you're bringing life into the world, but death becomes really real and catastrophe becomes really real and you get absolutely terrified about the world that you're bringing your kid into, you know, and but that there is also this kind of amazing humor, gallows humor, I think, you know, that you suddenly really tap into. And I think in a very visceral way, because I was so hormonal and so pregnant and so all the rest, I really tapped into that at the point that I read this script. And of course, afterwards, when we then made the film, we're then in this incredibly strange moment where
in fact,
there is a pandemic that is rolling in, and suddenly this thing that was very funny and this thing that of course wouldn't happen and is suddenly very real. And you know, the last things that we filmed were the death sequence, and we were the last film going in London before everything shut down. So I think we shut down on the Wednesday and we all went into lockdown, I think the Friday or the Monday or you know, something, but we were the last ones going, and getting those last scenes filmed as we were all filming ourselves dying, as there were panic on the streets and everybody was, you know, hoarding toilet paper and all the rest of it, was possibly one of the most surreal experiences I've had on a film production.
And we only had a day. It was supposed to be
the question was, how did you prepare for it? I mean, life prepares you for it, doesn't it?
Thank God I didn't have the sciatica there. I mean, that sounds
exactly. Prepared me for it.
Yeah.
Being a parent, I think.
Moments of floating in a pool with shocking moments of pain when you get out.
Yeah.
I suppose. How did I prepare? I read the script, and actually, it came to me via Matthew Vaughn, who was producing, and I hadn't made him hate me enough during our experience on The Kingsman, and he said, and he thought that he'd try and employ me again. And although there was someone else in the running, but we won't go into that.
There was.
There was someone else in the running, but it doesn't matter. So I read it initially, and I tend to read things when the kids. I've got 3 kids, so they go to bed. You know, bottle of wine. It's either in the bath or with a bottle of wine. That's how I do it. And I found it. I phoned up Matthew that night and said, "Mate, I can't do this film. I can't do it at all. I'm really sorry. I find it very, which is weird for me. I know. Look at Keira's face. She's like, what? So I can't do it because I was reading it and I just couldn't help. I couldn't get the picture of my children's faces out of my mind. And then I woke up really early in the morning. As I said to Matthew, I said, "Look, I think I'm out, but let me just read it again in the morning when the fog has lifted." And I read it in the morning, and I've been working recently with who shall remain nameless, but she had some shocking children, and I pictured them, and I suddenly found the whole thing absolutely hilarious. And I fell on my sword, and I phoned Matthew straight away, and I was like, please put me in this wonderful dark corner. And then I guess the rest is history. Yeah, so it is timely. There's no question about that.
Great.
I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say, I think it was important in the casting. Matthew Vaughn was very determined that they should be parents. That, you know, well, Keira came on board right at the very beginning. The film wasn't happening until Keira said yes. But it was important, and he was very determined. Like, you know, whoever plays Simon needs to be a father. And you know, and I think that makes a huge difference, actually.
Great. So, Roman, you returned to Tiff after the very successful premiere of Jojo Rabbit in 2019. Can you talk to us about what is it like working with your mother as the director and then with these fantastic actors as your on-screen parents?
Well, working with my mother was, working with your family in any environment is strange, but it was kind of great because she's been my mother for 14 sad years. I'm joking. They've been great years. Okay. She was able to be like brutally honest. And yeah, I guess that kind of helped a lot because it was easier to know where I was going wrong because she'd say it.
Can I just say one of my favorite pieces of direction that she gave you, which is one of my favorite pieces of direction that I've ever heard.
Steady, Keira.
No, but it was brilliant. It was, no, because we were doing the scene where I'm basically saying to you, we've got to die. And you do have to take the pill and you have to die. And you were giving this beautiful performance, but your head was like this. And every single time you get to this beautiful bit and your head was like this. And she kept saying, she was like, Raymond, and every single time you get to the bit, and every single time it would go down, and she kept saying, and then finally she goes, Raymond, put your fucking head up or I'm going to kill you. And I was like, Never has a more loving mother.
Edit that out.
And you're like,
the worst part is I
okay.
did the direction, and I'm like, I have to not react to it, otherwise it would ruin the performance. So I'm like,
it was interesting, that moment. It's a very moment in the car, the intense scene. Yeah. And he couldn't look at Keira in the eye. I think the intimacy was so big. And I was like, look at your mother, And in the end, Keira, you're amazing. You just grabbed his head and forced it. And it changed everything. It is very powerful, I think, that scene. It's a beautiful scene. But yeah, he did get shouted at a bit. I mean,
in the nicest way.
It was the loveliest. It was, I mean, I can't, it was, I have to say, just from working. So it was the whole family were involved with this. And I have to say, I fell in love with all of your family. And if I can be a mum like you, whether I'm swearing at my child or not, I will be so happy, because the love between all of you is just like divine. You all just make each other laugh so much, and it's just like just excellent. It was such a lovely thing to witness and to be able to be part of.
Thank you. I mean, unfortunately, yeah.
It's important to say at this point that one of the reasons that those sorts of fraught pieces of direction come out is because we didn't have very much time to make this film. We made it in like 12 days or something like that. So time was of the essence, and we were losing the light and all the rest of it.
Yes, because good old Ben.
Guerrilla filmmaking, darling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know this, Joanna, because obviously I'm really anti-nepotism, but it was a very nepotistic crew, because my husband is a cinematographer. And in fact, we met many years ago because I used to be a camera assistant and I worked with him. But he was assisting in the cinematography. He was godparenting. And he said, oh, you can't shoot this, we've lost the light. I said, I don't care, you're going to shoot it. He was like, you can't, we've lost the light. So there was that stress, but that doesn't mean I don't shout at women when there's plenty of light, because that does happen.
You shouted in the most loving, wonderful way, and then I just grabbed his head, so it was all completely fine.
But it was so nice for me because I hadn't worked with Ben and Sam. I'm such a big fan of Sam, who's his number two, since 2004. So it was a wonderful reunion, just on a purely selfish point from myself. Because I really well, I worked with him on the King's Man, but not you know, it was to have it again was some pretty amazing.
Together, you mean the two of them together?
Yeah. They're fun as hell.
Yeah, they're very short. Our cinematographers. We're quite a short family.
Yes,
we were quite a short gang.
That's
yes.
very useful to have a low center of gravity when you've got if you're going to do some handheld. You think about it.
So you shot it in February. So I heard the last day was just as the country was about to go into lockdown. So how do you think the film reads differently now that the world has experienced this pandemic, and how did it affect it also just you finishing the film?
Well, weirdly enough, when I wrote the original first draft, I shared it with my then agent, who said, and it was a virus, and he went, oh, this would never happen. No, he didn't get it. He was like, no, it can't be a virus, you know. So, which is kind of ironic and sad, really. So obviously, we then thought about the environmental and ways of bringing the environment into it. But I think it has made it harder for the film, because the film is a metaphor, and now it's so truthful in our existence that, you know, the studios have been so excited about the film and praising the performances and the subject, but they've been terrified about upsetting the audience. I don't think the audience are upset. I think when people are upset, they like to talk about stuff. So for me, if they want to turn it off, they can, but I think they're going to be like, well, actually, this is quite an interesting platform to discuss everything we've been through, like, you know, and this ongoing conversation about the vaccine and should we be vaccinated, and, you know, the vaccine is to protect society, and how above and beyond can we go to protect each other. So I actually think it's particularly, like you said, timely, but I think it has affected the film's life to the point, because I think people have been quite frightened of sharing it, of upsetting the audience.
At the same time, do you not think there's an element of, I think there's probably one film is probably going to be an Italian romantic comedy where people are passing messages across a washing line, and it's really beautifully shot and it's very sweet and there's not a lot of dialogue. That's going to be the only film I actually want to watch about COVID. And this isn't centered around COVID, thank God. But I think it has probably upset the film. But it's also offering up much more than just about a virus. It's more about like relationships. How would one react if I was in that situation? Because although COVID has been that situation for some people, and we can't stress that enough, there is an element of you wait until the next level kind of thing happens, because this is on a totally different scale. And I think that is where that is hopefully where you always want your film to have an audience. But I think that's where an audience will. And it's also funny. It's funny. It's about Christmas. There's a lot of things that we all see in our own lives that we can, more than just this disease. Anyway, I
mean, no, you're right.
Yeah, I think it should come with a warning. And I sort of felt like that before.
My acting.
You know, yeah, but you know, it is. It felt like it was a complete dream, and that this is not a situation that really any of us would have to understand. And then even as we were making it, you know, it wasn't. It was suddenly a situation that felt like it could happen. And I think all of our relationship with this piece of work changed because of that. And I think that if this film had been made 5 years ago and released then, I think an audience would have a completely different reaction to it than it's going to have now.
But we also have to remember that it's about really.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we've all been through something, and we will understand this film, and it will suddenly become personal in a way that it wouldn't have, you know, 5 years ago. And actually, I think that's to its strength.
But if you think about also what the hell is going on with the, you know, which hadn't happened at the time of this film, this year. Disaster after disaster after disaster with the environment, which is really what our film is about. We've done so much bad stuff to the planet. It's become this metaphor about COVID. But let's continue to talk about actually what the problem is, which is that we are at a pace now. We have discovered that climate change is really happening, and that's really what I find astonishing about the film is how on the pulse it is of, are we going to actually do something or not? Because we are now going to show you what the likelihood is if we don't make that change. Put my green hat on, but I mean, you know.
No, I agree with you. And Greta Thunberg uses that amazing speech where she says, like, the house is on fire. Like,
yes,
don't sit around going, what are we going to do? The house is burning. It's like, so I think this is just an extension of her conversation, which is the house is burning. You can't, you know, where are you going to run? You're going to run, or you're going to fix something, you know. So yeah. I do think the film's important, and I think it's wonderful that it's disguised as a kind of disturbing comedy, but I'm proud of that. I think it's important. I'm not frightened. We're not frightened of having difficult conversations in our family or with my friends. We're dark-minded, but we're funny with it, and I think that's healthy. I think it's, you know,
absolutely. Yeah. It's some of the best ways to make your point about anything is always like, if you take up someone like Bill Hicks and stand-up comedy, and how that has gone through. We are delivering massive amounts of truth at you with a smile, but it's hugely thought-provoking, or one hopes, you know. What do you think, Roman?
I'll give a really bad answer, so I'll just.
No, you won't. Go for it.
Go for it. Just to finish the Q&A, we'll give you.
Yeah, I kind of zoned out, I'll be frankly honest. So,
fair enough.
The reason I don't know what we were talking about.
What do you think of the environmental issues in the film? Do you think it's important that the children are going to inherit the mistakes of their parents? How do you feel about that?
Okay. I'll be frankly honest, can you repeat the question?
I'll leave it with Joanna.
Okay.
Great. So it seems like we're at time. Thank you all so much. It's great.
That's it. You coming up at 8 in the morning for that? Jesus Christ, Joanna. That feels half-assed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well,
it's great to see you all. And
thank you, Joanna. Look forward to meeting you in person.
Thanks
yeah,
so much.
me too. Me too. It's gonna be
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Keira. Thank you, Roman.
bye, Joanna.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.